Today I want to talk about 10 ways to handle emotional incest as an adult. Hang on. So hi everybody, I'm Brad Shore. I'm a licensed therapist here with my Ask a Shrink. I've done several videos on emotional incest, but I want to talk today about how to handle it as an adult. I've talked about the sources, the causes, how the dynamics come together when you're a kid and how it affects sibling relationships and relationships with yourself and so on. But today I want to talk about, per a viewer's request, how do you handle it as an adult? Let's say you're a victim of emotional incest and you grow up and you're now in your 20s or 30s or 40s or whatever it is, and you're now understanding what really happened. You realize there's some complications in your life from being a victim of emotional incest, and you wonder, what the heck do you do now? You want to understand it more, but what do you do? Let's talk about that. So number one, stay away from your parents if you need to. If you still have a relationship with them, if it's still dysfunctional, if you still feel the emotional incest coming towards you from the offending parent, you need to get out of Dodge. So whatever that means to you, it may mean putting up healthy boundaries, very strong, firm boundaries with them. Or if they're not getting it, it may mean no contact at all. Boom, over, done. You need to move on with your life and remove that toxicity out of your life. And if it means doing that, then do it. But the main point from this is that you are able to take control and separate that toxicity from you and reclaim your own life. Number two, talk about it and tell others. With emotional incest, there's so much shame and guilt and confusion that children often think they did something wrong, even though they were emotionally smothered for the benefit of the parent to please the parent's needs. You're the victim and you feel like you did something wrong, because that's how kids react in general to child abuse, to some form of trauma heaped on them by a parent. They think, oh, I must have been bad, I did something wrong. No. You didn't do anything wrong at all. And so the guilt and shame and confusion needs to be shared and talked about. So not only telling your friends and family members and other important people in your life what you went through, but you may want to talk to a group at a school or some sort of support group or write a blog about it. But the point is you can help others by letting people know what you went through. 3, push the envelope for yourself and do things that scare you, scare the heck out of you. So much about dealing with emotional incest is that we think we're not capable. We turn into this wallflower. I'm just supposed to be invisible. I'm not supposed to really do much in life, perhaps, is how you feel about yourself. So the way to work with that is to push the envelope and see what you're made of. And that's how we build self-esteem and self-confidence, is by doing the things that scare the hell out of us. So anything where you feel like you're hiding yourself, or you're still being the wallflower, maybe keeping your opinions in, maybe not sharing how you really feel with others, or just simply getting in the spotlight, being seen, being heard, anything along that line that you know relates back to the emotional incest, you need to push yourself to do it and get out there and do it. I know for me personally, I had a hard time being seen. I didn't want to be in front of others at all, because that was not my role as a child at all. I had to just be invisible and not rock the boat. So as an adult, I attended Toastmasters for about 2 years, where I pushed myself to get up and do my weekly speeches and do the table topics and see what it's like to get in front of others. Scared the heck out of me, but I did it because I knew I had to overcome the fear, to work with it, to grow as a person and as an adult and let myself mature more. I had to do that, and I had to remember that saying, feel the fear and do it anyhow. And that's what we all have to do if you're a victim of emotional incest. Number 4 is advocate for yourself and put your feelings into words. So your parents didn't advocate for you, right? In fact, if anything, it was the opposite. You got repressed and smothered down. So now as an adult, you have to advocate for yourself. And that means putting into words what you couldn't really put into words before, because you weren't supposed to really say much of anything or have much of an opinion, for sure. So now you get to practice it, and you get to advocate for your needs, your wants, your desires. You get to be the center of attention for once. Advocating simply means that you are not going to be at the bottom of the totem pole anymore like you were in your family. It was very conditional love that your offending parent heaped on you. Well, you don't want it to be conditional anymore. You want unconditional love from others in your life, which means you need to share who you really are. Number 5, if you have siblings, let your siblings know your experience. One of the videos I did is how it can affect and really cause trouble with the siblings in your family because they saw you as the prince or princess in the family and they are jealous. They don't know what to do with that. And of course, that's a reasonable reaction, right? If you're seeing somebody in your family being singled out and being treated with all this honor and glory, albeit conditional, that you would wonder too, why not me? Why are they getting all this attention heaped on them? So they may not understand what's really going on, what's really happened to you, and it may be affecting your relationships as an adult. And again, you can click up now for a video I did about sibling rivalry if you're more curious about how it affects relationships with your siblings. So one way to work through that is to tell them, say, hey, I know you had your difficulties growing up as well. I'd like to hear more about that. And also, I'd like to let you know what it was like for me and how it negatively impacted me. So you both have something to talk about. It's important to have those conversations. Otherwise, your siblings may not really get it or understand how you've suffered emotionally by being a victim of emotional incest. Number 6 is if you have kids in your life, raise your kids the opposite. You get it, right? You know what it's like to be emotionally smothered and used for the benefit of a parent. Well, you're not going to do that. So that in a way is a silver lining of what you've gone through, is that you get that healthy boundaries need to be implemented with raising your children. And they need to have a sense of self and go through proper identity stages that you were denied. And so you can provide that for your child. And that's a victory in a way. It's such a victory if you can raise your children that way, because you're showing the world that you're not passing it on. You're not going to have that trauma repeated to future generations. You are doing the opposite with your child. Number 7 is put that shame and guilt back on your parents where it belongs. Do not carry that, and make sure that you are in touch with it. And if you need to, project it mentally, visually back on your parents. They're the ones who crossed boundaries. They're the ones who caused havoc in your life. They're the ones who were not willing to look at their own unhappy marriage, for example, and therefore, because of the marriage, took over emotionally one of their children. They're the ones who did wrong here, and don't carry what they did wrong inside of you. Put it back on them. And the reason I say parents versus parent, even though it may seem like there's just one offending parent, if you were raised in a 2-parent household, the other parent, who is not necessarily the perpetrator, however, stood back and let it happen. They're also guilty in their own way, because part of being married and raising children means that you're observing how those children are being watched. And if somebody is doing something destructive or unhealthy with your children, especially if it's your wife or husband, you need to step in and take over and take control and not let that go on. So it's both parents who are involved here if you were raised in a 2-parent household. Now, this can involve verbally telling them that you're doing this. This can involve writing them a letter. Or if your parents are gone, this can just mean that you are visually placing that guilt and shame on them. You don't have to carry it anymore. Number 8, put your feelings first. You get to be a little bit selfish at this stage of your life. You weren't able to be selfish when you were young and going through your childhood because you had to turn over your needs and really your identity to your parent. You had to mirror back to them what they wanted to see, not who you authentically were. So now, because that was robbed of you, you get to be a little selfish. Put yourself first. It may feel strange at first to make your feelings be numero uno because you're not used to that. So play around with that and see how it feels, and it's going to feel pretty good. You get to be a little selfish at this stage of your life. Next tip is allow yourself the gift of therapy. Therapy is a gift. It's a safe place for you to go in and explore your feelings, those feelings that you weren't able to explore and because it wasn't safe when you were growing up. Perhaps nobody wanted to hear. That's probably my best guess. And even if they attempted to listen, they really weren't understanding what you were going through. So therefore, you may have just given up. You may have repressed your feelings. You may have dissociated. You may have minimized them. Whatever it is or was, you're able now to safely look at them in a therapeutic setting. Get positive feedback, objective feedback. Garner some insight from a licensed therapist who's going to understand this and realize that this is about your underlying feelings that's led to the symptoms currently in your life. Perhaps you have trouble with intimate relationships. Perhaps you have trouble with anger. Perhaps you have trouble with expressing your authentic self. Whatever it is, a therapist is going to get that, and you can explore all this safely and then reclaim yourself and be comfortable in your own skin. Begin reframing your childhood as an opportunity for growth and for wondrous things, because that is often the case. Sometimes victims of emotional incest are great listeners. They make great therapists. Sometimes they're empaths in their life. They're gifted with deep concern and love for others because they understand what other people are going through. They know what it's like to be just shut down. The insights can be amazing that one can garner from being a victim of emotional incest. It can so help in our adult life and help us flourish and grow and love in ways that other people are not quite capable of. Because your growth as an adult comes from a place of wisdom and emotional pain, and that can benefit us as adults with connections with others. The main point is to ask yourself, what did it teach you? What have you learned through that experience that is now benefiting you in your life? And number 10, choose friends and a life partner and others around you who are going to support you and let you have your voice. They want to hear you. They want to be on an equal plane with you. You're not dating or hanging out with narcissists. You're going to be with people who respect you and allow you the time to put your feelings into words, which can be a struggle sometimes for kids who are raised as victims of emotional incest. So make sure that who you surround yourself with respect you, love you, as you will do the same for them, and they allow you time to find your words and express yourself, and you feel on an equal playing field with them, which you were not able to feel when you were a child. So I hope all this has been helpful. 10 wonderful tips. I hope it assists you in your life. It takes work and effort, but it's all worth it in the long run because you can grow and blossom and thrive in ways that you didn't understand or even know it was possible when you were a kid in that confined, emotionally confined environment. Please leave me some comments below if you're a victim of emotional incest, how it's going for you. If you have any other tips you'd like me to know, please leave them in the comments section. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like these kind of mental health videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.